Hey there. Who have you decided in the river of life is the bad guy? My name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is bad guy. You can play some Billie Eilish in the background if you like. I was at the mountain today, and last time I had this powerful I've had many interactions with crows since then, but there was a moment in which crow was on a tree. I was singing its praises. I was praying to its belly and praying to the nature spirits, and crow flew from that tree to this other tree and started yelling at me. Bah, 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 bah. And it's one of the more powerful interactions I've ever had with a crow, because I stood up and immediately followed it to that, across the street, to that part of the forest. And when I got to exactly the tree that crow had landed on, I was in a den of elk. There were I always call them stag because I've had a lot of past lives with them as stags, but there was a den of like 7 to 8 elk, and I was clearly being offered to join their meeting. So I was praising nature spirits. In Celtic shamanism, stag or elk can represent the gateway to the underworld and also the king of the nature spirits. And so it was a really beautiful answer to a prayer I was praying. And today I had a similar scenario in which I turned somewhere. I was running, my intent was to go up the mountain a little further, but my body was just like, anyhow, we're pulling in here. And it's like, okay. I parked the car and thought, I guess I need sun. I noticed, okay, I need to clean my glasses. But then crow came over and landed in that same tree. And, and I was like, as it was flying over, I opened window, of course, and was like, you're beautiful, I love you, bless your belly. So the prayers I say. But it landed in that tree and was kind of dancing. I was like, all right, I wasn't really planning to get out. Everything's covered in snow. But I just almost felt like, go play, get out there. And so I only had a light sweater and I had a jacket in the back. So I go to grab it to be a little bit warmer. And as I cross the street, there's a gentleman there and his Lexus is stuck. And he is spinning his wheels. And so this Hispanic male is trying to get his car out, but it is literally just spinning and he is deep in the snow. And I assume who was his lady is in the passenger seat. This petite Asian woman was sitting there, and he's clearly stressed, and I can feel his stress and his concern. I can also feel, what feels like the embarrassment of feeling like you can't solve something, but I could feel his openness to solving it, because I showed up and I pray to serve God in everything I do, the light of love, the light of truth, and all that I do every single day. And crow guided Heather Feather to this man. So it's like, well, God's got your back. I don't know how this is going to resolve, but I do know that it will. I have all the faith in the world. This is to be resolved soon. And so I assume, because I surrender all my atoms to the divine, that I'm going to be able to push through this thing. And that's not what happened, because I don't believe it, and you can never perceive what you don't believe. But there were all these beautiful souls getting involved, and there was an opportunity in which one of the women that was involved was saying all kinds of funny stuff. But one of the things she said is, hey, why don't we get the passenger, this woman, out of the passenger seat so we have just a little bit less weight to push this thing. So I go to ask her, and she's like, my foot is hurt. And I immediately judged her. I immediately was like, bad guy, you are such a prima donna. Excuse me, ballerina princess, do you need me to build you an ice fort that you can sit in so that we can help this situation? Or do you want to get, it's time to flamingo up, girl, and get outside the car. I got immediately mad. I didn't say any of that. I was like, okay. And I just go back to do what I'm doing and working to reconcile the judgment, because I don't know her. I don't know how her foot is hurt. I don't know almost anything, as I'm making her a bad guy, and my ego is inflating its superiority because it's willing to help in the now. Right? And so who is a bad guy to you? Is it Trump? Is it ICE? Should be the news. The news is a depressant, and if it boils your blood and makes you angry and you don't do anything about it, then it is not helping you. Point blank. It's not helping you at all. You know what I mean? So you do you. I'm not here to tell you what to watch. I'm just saying it is a known depressant. They've done studies on it. So, if you're not wanting to be into depression, then there are lots of different ways to receive information and to make a difference in this world. And they merit a tremendous amount more attention than just receiving stories that activate frequencies of anger and sorrow and pain and suffering. We are stewarding a temple. That temple is a household. It is a home for the light of love. And we can let the temple be run by the ego. And the ego often will self-praise, and anything it's doing that isn't working, any bad guy in the self, it will project onto others. And so Heather Feather is often asking herself, how are you projecting onto the world that there are bad guys? You know, I find the term ICE to be perfect for an organization that lacks heart in the behavior that is occurring, because compassion is never about separation. It's about atonement, at-one-ment. It's about communion. It's about bringing together. It's about serving. It's about helping. It's about aiding. And I want to get so mad at ICE and be like, this is a bad guy for sure. But what I know is that emotional state, that consciousness state, is not a contribution to things being different. And here's how I know why. Here's how I know why that's true. Number one is that Thomas Young in 1801 created something called the double slit experiment. That experiment baffles scientists to this day. What it proved is that when a conscious observer or a human mind is present in a room, atoms, which have been operating as waves of probability or operating as if they're an ocean and they have multi-locality and they're in different spots and spaces and time, suddenly collapse into particles based on the conscious mind that has decided these waves of probability are going to look like my mug of coffee right there because I walked into the room and I'm trying to take a sip of my coffee. And that's what they do, and they obey. And they are made out of emptiness every single day. 99.99999999996% emptiness if we but round up, are you so certain that you're here? What I can tell you, my dear, is that every single day you are collapsing waves of probability into the world that you see. And I'm curious, is it a grace, what you've chosen to look upon in the living tree? And so what Heather Feather has worked diligently to do is to be hyper mindful. I watch a lot of stand-up comedy because let me put some laughs in this realm where we're all gonna die anyhow. You're all future death walking around. And so let's remember to laugh. Let me put some dance in this realm. Let me put a song in this realm. Let me remember to hum in this realm. Let me do something creative in this realm. Let me shake more joy, more love, more agape in this realm. Let me remove the forest in my own eyes before I fiddle with splinters in yours so that I can recognize everything is made of atoms. I am at all times engaging with one thing, and it is the self. And so wherever I have the term bad guy is a place that I've decided it's appropriate to not be compassionate or be the love that I am. All of the masters, if you follow any spiritual philosophy whatsoever, and this video isn't about you needing to do that, but if you do, and you follow a master, a prophet, a knower, that master and that prophet taught love, taught forgiveness, taught service. They didn't teach separation, high horseness, righteousness, superiority. That is all the domain of the ego. So any message any entity ever gives me that is of the domain of I am above and something is below, that goes linear instead of circular and encompassing and hugging the all, is not, I'm not dealing with the truth, I'm dealing with the ego. I'm not dealing with the truth of the spirit or the internal, eternal messenger of the light of love that we are. And so we can say all day how the world needs to clean up its hey, whatever it's doing over here. But how much stage presence are you, temple holder, giving to the fear, to the false evidence appearing real? How much do you let fear sit in a temple chair that was made for the light of love? And are there any places this day you might like to consider extending love to anything that you've witnessed that you want to come into union with a greater presence? The most powerful presence entering any room in any hour is the light of love. And so if we want to heal and have things be different, perhaps it's time to turn our attention to the light of love, compassion, and forgiveness, to bridges, to communion, to coming together, such that we might recognize it's all one thing being influenced by our mind weather. Amun.